that we're here for today. We also have Mr. Michael Vandeveld, also a Crown Castle Fiber LLC employee. He's a permitting specialist for Crown Castle. He has duties that include also working with utilities and regulatory agencies and municipalities regarding obtaining the necessary permits and approvals for small cell facilities. And he is also involved in the Crown Castle project in Fairfield County and for the region of Bridgeport. We also have Mr. Tyler Gefeller. He is a radio frequency design engineer for Crown Castle Fiber LLC. He works on behalf of Crown Castle and with other commercial mobile radio service providers in designing and optimizing wireless networks to meet those providers' needs. And he's been involved and well-versed in the Crown Castle small cell project in Fairfield County and in particular the city of Bridgeport and for this facility that we're here for today. Finally, we have Mr. Pragnesh Shah. He's a senior radio frequency design engineer for Crown Castle. And similarly, he works with other CMRS providers, designing and optimizing wireless networks that not only meet their expectations, but Crown Castle's expectations in providing reliable wireless services. And he's also well-versed in Crown Castle's small cell initiative in Fairfield County, and in particular for the small cell facility that we're here for today.
Thank you.
And I offer them to be sworn in at this time.
Thank you, Attorney Cook. Could the witnesses please raise their right hand? Do you swear that the evidence you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under pains and penalties of perjury?
Yes, I do.
Yes, we do.
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Attorney Cook, please have your witnesses adopt their pre-filed materials and proceed to your corrections.
Very good, Hearing Officer Coker. The first exhibit that we'd like to place in the record is the small cell application and its related attachments regarding this docket 24-1207 proceeding. The second exhibit would be the pre-filed testimony and its attachments that were also filed and submitted in this docket on behalf of Crown Castle LLC. So we'll begin with Mr. Gefeller. Mr. Gefeller, did you prepare or did you assist in the preparation of the two exhibits that are part of the record in this proceeding, docket 24-1207?
Yes, I assisted.
And do you have any corrections, modifications, or amendments to offer to any of those exhibits at this time?
Yes, the name on the note ID for the application need to be corrected to ERP 61. It was originally corrected to 61. It was originally 10.
And do you have any other corrections to the exhibits?
No.
What about the numbering of the pre-filed testimony?
Oh, yes. The numbering of the pre-trial testimony needed to be corrected.
And with the exception of those two corrections, is the information contained in those two exhibits true and accurate to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
And do you adopt, and I'm sorry, regarding the radio frequency engineer certification labeled as attachment 3 to the application, it's signed by Mr. Shah, your RF colleague at Crown Castle, but did you review that RF certification?
Yes, I did.
And do you adopt the testimony in these exhibits as your sworn testimony in this proceeding, docket 24-1207?
Yes, I do.
Very good. I'll proceed with Mr. McDonough. Mr. McDonough, did you prepare or did you assist in the preparation of the two exhibits that were submitted on behalf of Crown Castle in this proceeding, docket 24-1207?
Yes, I did.
And do you have any corrections, modifications, or amendments to either of those two exhibits?
The same two corrections that were just mentioned. 661, it was 10, it should be 61 in the original information.
Okay. With the exception of those two corrections, is the information contained in those two exhibits true and accurate to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, it is.
And do you adopt the testimony in these exhibits as your sworn testimony in these proceedings?
I do.
And Mr. Shah, did you prepare or did you assist in the preparation of the two exhibits that have been offered by Crown Castle in this proceeding 24-1207?
Yes, I did.
And do you have any corrections, modifications, or amendments to either of those two exhibits at this time?
Not additional to what stated.
Okay, so the same as Mr. Gefeller and Mr. McDonough articulated? With the exception of those two corrections, is the information contained in those two exhibits true and accurate to the best of your knowledge? And do you adopt the testimony in those two exhibits as your sworn testimony in this proceeding? And finally, Mr. Vandeveld, did you prepare or did you assist in the preparation of the two exhibits that are part of the record in this proceeding, docket 24-1207?
Yes, I did.
Do you have any corrections or modifications to either of the two exhibits submitted?
Same as previously mentioned.
And with the exception of those two corrections, is the information contained in those two exhibits true and accurate to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, it is.
And and do you adopt the testimony in these exhibits as your sworn testimony in this proceeding?
Yes, I do.
Very good. Hearing Officer Coker, I offer these two exhibits as full exhibits.
Thank you, Attorney Cook. We will begin with a brief opening statement from the company, if you have one you'd like to make.
Thank you, Hearing Officer Coker. Through its application and supporting attachments, as well as its pre-filed testimony and supporting attachments, Crown Castle has fulfilled the requirements as set forth by the authority in its docket 0806 RE01 decision. Specifically, Crown Castle has submitted a construction plan that provides information regarding the specific location of the facility. Crown Castle has also submitted a detailed description of the proposed wireless facility's compliance with the National Electric Safety Code, the National Electric Code, and all other applicable construction standards. Crown Castle also provided a detailed description of the applicable of the purpose, the intended use, and the need for the proposed facilities. And finally, Crown Castle included specification plans and procedures to protect the public safety of residents in the area during construction, operation, and maintenance of the proposed facility. And as we know, Crown Castle also submitted a radio frequency maximum permissible exposure calculation as part of its application that complies with Federal Communications Commission Office of Engineering and Technology Bulletin 65 that demonstrates the proposed facility's compliance with the FCC's standards in radio frequency. And thus, we respectfully ask the authority to approve the 24-1207 application. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Cook. With the conclusion of the opening statement, I will begin some cross-examination of the company's witnesses. And any one of the four witnesses can answer for this. I would just request that when I ask you, when you prepare your answer, you state your name for the record and for the court reporter. So my first question, referring to the pre-filed testimony question in answer number 9, could you briefly explain how your RF design engineers identify a need for coverage?
Tyler Gefeller here speaking. So we work with our telco partners to identify a search area of need. And in this location, we identified a need around the Sunrise Circle area directed at a point of interest. And then we do a search ring from that point of interest to identify suitable locations for the telecom infrastructure.
Could you explain more about what need you're looking for and how you assess that?
Yeah. So when we work with our telco partners, they come to us with a need, particularly in this case with ERPW 61, the need is a coverage need. So in that area, we worked with telco partners to Oh, capacity, you're correct. I'm sorry. It's capacity need. We worked with them to find an area that would best suit this, resolve their capacity need in the area.
Thank you. So what public interest is served by installing this facility, the small cell facility, this location?
So it serves the public as well as emergency services in the area with telecommunication services.
When you say emergency services, could you be more precise?
E911 calls as well as any telecommunication services that they're using for that work.
Who would benefit from increased service in the area beyond emergency services that you mentioned?
The general public, users, and anyone that uses telecommunication on a daily basis.
Including the emergency responding system. Sorry. I'm on, including emergency response service.
So what is the company's procedure exactly for evaluating poles for placement of small cell facilities?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear. Can you repeat that once more?
Yes. What is the company's procedure for evaluating poles for placement of small cell facilities?
So, basically, telco or whoever it is, they would come to us and tell us like a certain area of needs, and then we jointly verify the needs for it and identify so they come up with the area that they are interested in it, where there's sufficient lack of coverage or capacity at that point. So they come to us and then we jointly decide what would be the area of interest. In this case, on Sunshine Parkway was the point of interest, Sunshine Circle was a point of interest, and we looked within that area to look for the coverage.
Do you know how many poles are located in the target coverage area?
We have looked at about
6, 8, 9.
nine of them.
So could you explain the basis for choosing to use pole number 9172 specifically out of those 9 poles?
Sure, I can take Kenneth McDonough. So we take a look at all the poles within the circle that's provided to us by the RF engineers. And we use the utilities standards for pole selection. In this case, it's United Illuminating. There are certain poles that we're not allowed to go on, such as junction poles, poles that have existing primary equipment, poles that have other appurtenances on them, such as cable TV boxes, existing telephone boxes. So certain poles that are automatically eliminated, we're not allowed to get on, which minimizes the number of poles that we can actually use. And in this particular case, 9172 was the only pole within the search area that we could actually install our antenna on that would provide the coverage necessary for the customer.
So out of the 9 poles in the area, only 1 was actually eligible for this?
Correct.
Okay. In the pre-filed testimony that municipal authorities require company contractors to hire local police officers for traffic safety purposes in some jurisdictions. For the record, are you aware if Bridgeport has this requirement?
Michael Vanderbilt. Bridgeport requires, we use, contact the overtime police department to hire a group of officers or a single officer to supervise any operations in the public right of way.
Thank you. Could you please explain how the company conducted the analysis of the RF emissions? Like walk me through that.
So when we do our EME analysis, we work with a vendor, Waterford, and we give them the information, the power requirements of the radios to deploy, the antenna information, antenna gain, cable losses, connector losses, and anything associated with that, and work closely with them to provide and produce a report. In this case, we produced the our general normal report as well as the additional Excel sheets that are required for our submittals.
Could you please explain, would one of the witnesses please explain, when you have a small cell facility that is properly operating and fully functional, in which direction or directions do the RF emissions radiate?
Tyler again. So in this case, for this particular site, it's a omnidirectional antenna. So it will be radiating at the level of the horizon, but in a 360 direction with focus points like a finger in 3 separate beams to make a full 360 circle, where the center focus point of each of the 3 beams would be like your middle finger of your hand and separate lobes afterwards.
In the application, the company provided a worst-case assessment of RF emissions. Which directions are accounted for in that worst-case scenario?
That is all directions in the worst case. Yeah.
But primarily for 61, it is the ground. That is the worst case scenario.
So when you say that they emit towards the horizon, do you mean they do not typically angle towards the ground? I understand that the small cell facility is elevated on a pole. Does that affect the directions it radiates normally?
I'm sorry, I couldn't.
Yeah,
hear.
my apologies. I'll clarify my question. You mentioned that they radiate in a 360-degree direction. Do they ever radiate downwards towards the ground?
There is a little tilt, but for the most part, it's focused out onto the horizon. I believe the antenna we're using has a 2-degree tilt. So instead of being face 0 level with the ground plane, there's a slight 2-degree tilt
So-
going down.
To rephrase it, I mean, what Tyler stated, the antenna is primarily targeted at a certain area that you want to cover. But so antenna by pattern would basically have majority of it going in the direction you want to it. But there is a leakage, or if you want to call it, some part of it that goes below into the ground, but that level is minimized.
So, and when you estimated the worst case scenario, what relationship does that have to the maximum permissible exposure rate promulgated by the FCC? Are they identical or is there a difference?
So the worst case scenario, it depends on what the structure is in front of it. If the structure is very close to the antenna, then can be the worst case scenario. And if it's very close, greater than the maximum permissible distance. If it's in certain cases, if the ground is very short, then can be the worst case scenario. So it depends on the situation. I believe in this case, in this case, it is the ground level is like shorter. So therefore, we just basically opted with that worst case scenario.
This is partially covered by some of your answers, but just for the record, could you please briefly explain what the maximum permissible exposure is?
So MP national exposure. So I'm sorry, massive exposure for the site is how much RF radiation in the general public can attain in the area. So when it's measured, right, the general public can't exceed 100%.
So in general, basically what Tyler stated, that general public, there's a limit set by FCC, and it is like 100% is if you come closer to it, then you would basically hit the MP threshold, and you don't want to be in that situation. You want to be further out. You want to be less than 100%. So that's what we basically try to target.
Understood. So that concludes my questions for Cross. Attorney Cook, do you need a moment to consider redirect?
Mine, Hearing Officer Coker. Mr. Gefeller, when you were discussing maximum permissible exposure and the RF calculation performed, can you tell me a little bit more about what's entailed in that calculation? Like, Is it default with the antennas pointed directly at the ground, for example, to get that worst case scenario?
Yes, yeah. When we do that worst case scenario, the antenna pointing the ground with the point of interest 2 meters above the ground.
Very good. And does it also assume full power running 24/7?
Yes, it's full power.
And that gives you the worst case scenario calculation, right?
Correct. That would give you the worst case scenario.
Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Cook. Thank you, witnesses. If there's nothing further from the company, I think we can move on to taking testimony from the APO. Let's take a 5-minute recess. Yes.
Sure that that is on. Yes, we cannot hear you.
Welcome back, everyone. So for next steps, I would like to take testimony. I'm going to take testimony from the adjacent property owner or APO. This is your chance to introduce yourself and to give your preliminary testimony on this matter. After testimony, there will be an opportunity for cross-examination both from myself and from the other party, and then you will have a chance to ask questions of the company's witnesses at the conclusion of this. So if you'd like to begin, introduce yourself.
Good morning, everyone, and thanks for the opportunity here in Officer Coker. My name is Veronica Ortiz. I am the owner of the property noted as Docket 241207, 71 Sunshine Circle, Bridgeport, Connecticut. And I am here to object to the installation of the small cell antenna at this property based on the fact that in that area, there's mostly low-built house. And this property where this installation would take place, it's high-rised. And because of the radio frequency electronic magnetic fields, there's a concern. My tenants who live there has been there, living there for several years. And they have chronic health issues. And where their bedroom is, that's exactly where the pole would be located, right there.
Excuse me, just one moment, please. I have to swear you in first, since we're getting into testimony here. Okay, so please raise your right hand. Do you swear that the evidence you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under pains and penalties of perjury? Yes. We mentioned this at the beginning of the hearing, but I just wanted to restate that this is being streamed on YouTube and will be part of the public record. And please continue. Didn't mean to interrupt you.
I could continue?
Yes, you can continue.
During the mediation meeting on February 25th, 2025, Crown Castle promised to conduct a study with the FCC to confirm that the poles to be installed are within the allowable range of radio frequency electromagnetic fields and this would not only affect 71 Sunshine, it would affect my residence as well, which we will get into at a later point. On 3/5, I received an email from Rebecca Adams of Pura with attachment that was received from Crown Castle with complicated tables that we did not understand regarding the FCC study as it relates to allowable distance to the property in question, which is 71 Sunshine Circle, and also 88 Raleigh Road. However, Crown Castle did provide in bold print the FCC study outcome for 71 Sunshine, however, not for the other property at 88 Raleigh Road. I find that concerning because we were promised that they would do the study because on 88 Raleigh Road, there's a colonial house that I live in and my bedroom is right there. And we are concerned about the radioactive frequency that will take place from those poles near to our bedrooms. Okay, we checked with our neighbors and because initially at the mediation meeting, it was established that this is for Verizon. And Verizon, people who live on the street does not have a problem with getting reception with from Verizon. So we don't understand why Crown Castle would choose to put a small cell antenna near to buildings that they did not factor in the height. Those homes that we have there was just Cape homes, which is much lower to the ground. But these two structures are higher up their 2 levels. So we're objecting to that because of health reason. And that's what I have for 71 Sunshine Circle. For the other property, yeah, the docket, I will elaborate more for that one.
Before I give the company a chance to respond, I have a couple of questions for you.
Yes.
First, you were talking about 88 Robin Road and a study. Is that your property?
That's my primary residence. That's where I live. And it's in a different docket. But the way that I wrote it, I did not know that they were going to separate the dockets. So I'm sorry about that.
Okay, no problem. I have no further questions at this time. Attorney Cook, would you like a moment to prepare, or you have any questions for the APO on cross?
Good morning, Mrs. Ortiz. Were you aware that Crown Castle works closely with Selco Partnership, doing business as Verizon Wireless, on addressing coverage and capacity needs that are identified by both entities?
Based on the initial notification I received from Crown Castle in 2024, they did not disclose it was for Verizon. We did our research. Found that out based on our.
Were you aware that in the adjoining property owner notification letter, it does discuss Crown Castle's work with Selco Partnerships need for service?
Is that in the initial?
No. In the initial that was sent to us back in,
So you were not aware of that
2024.
in the APO letter? No, thank you. That's all I have for cross-examination. I would add that if the company did not provide nearest structure calculations for both sites, that we're happy to provide that. But I have to go back and check, but I believe we did provide nearest structure calculations for both sites. But if that's not the case, we're happy to provide those.
Thank you, Attorney Cook. To Ms. Ortiz, do you have any questions that you would like to ask the company witnesses at this time?
yes. If they could confirm for me when they did their FCC study as it relates to the radio frequency electromagnetic fields, what was the outcome for 71 Sunshine?
So the EME report for that site, at the base of the pole, you'll have a 3.4% EME exposure. For the adjacent structure, I don't know the number off the top of my head, but that is also below 100%, and we can get that for you.
This is Pregnant Shah speaking. By FCC, within 100, if you're less than 100%, that means you're further away from the actual distance, which means your FCC is much safer. I work with radio frequency. I personally go near a lot of structure. And basically, if it's less than 100%, I'm safe. I feel safe. And that's what I basically do.
Not
So in this
20
case, when you're further away, then the actual distance we provided, the maximum you'll see is 3.4% of 3 point whatever, so less than 4%. And that's very, very safe.
Okay, not 24/7, correct? You're not around it 24/7.
No, I'm not around 27, but it's basically, even in my home, I do have Wi-Fi. And that is also exposing some RF limitation. So I am in my home, I'm personally around Wi-Fi. If you have Wi-Fi router, there's an exposure there too.
Yeah.
And I am in vicinity of it. So I am 24/7 in my own home, if you want to call it.
So did you know you disclosed that 71 Sunshine Circle is 15.3 out of 100?
I'm not sure where that values came from.
It came from what you provided, Pura, Rebecca Adams, and it was forwarded for my preparation to come to court.
I'll go back and check the numbers. I don't have that in front of me, so.
Okay.
Do you have any more questions you'd like to ask, or is this, are you finished with cross examination of the witnesses?
Um, Not for 71 Sunshine.
Attorney Cook, do you have any redirect that you'd like to conduct?
Yes. Yes, Hearing Officer Coker, thank you. Mr. Shah, were you aware that we provided Mrs. Ortiz with a nearest structure calculation for the property she owns at her request?
Yes,
Yes. And was, to the best of your knowledge, was that calculation compliant with the FCC's OET Bulletin 65 standards?
yes, I did.
Thank you. That's all I have. Thanks.
So with the conclusion of the examination of the witnesses for this matter, I'm just going to check, are there any final administrative matters that anybody here would like to raise?
I don't have any, Hearing Officer Coker. Thank you.
Hearing none. I want to thank the witnesses for appearing today and for answering questions. To my understanding, there are no late filed exhibits planned. And so I want to draw everyone's attention to the remaining events scheduled in the proceeding, which are on the hearing agenda. Next steps will also be posted on the docket. If there are no closing administrative matters, I want to thank everyone for their participation today, and we are adjourned.
Thank you, Hearing Officer Coker.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Patrick Fryer. I am a staff attorney at Pura and will be serving as the hearing officer for today's hearing, which is in docket number 241208. It's the application of Crown Castle Fiber LLC for approval of a construction plan to install wireless facilities within a certain public rights of way. I'm joined today with Authority Legal Advisor Josh Coker. Please also be advised that this hearing is being streamed live on YouTube. We are here this morning for evidentiary hearing in this docket regarding Crown Castle's application. On the agenda today, we will pause for administrative matters, public comment, and then we will return to swearing in the witnesses and cross-examination. For the record, I would like to note a number of things. We have a court reporter with us this morning who will transcribe the record in this proceeding, so we look to the court reporter for the official record. For that reason, I'd ask the first time any individual speaks, if you can state your name and affiliation for the record. First thing I'd like to do is take appearances from counsel.
Good morning, Hearing Officer Fryer and Attorney Coker. My name is Mark Cook, and I'm here on behalf of Crown Castle Fiber LLC.
Thank you, Attorney Cook. And if I be able to get the appearances of the objecting party, the APOs, if you could just state your names, and addresses for the record.
Veronica Ortiz, 88 Raleigh Road, Bridgeport, Connecticut.
And Attorney Cook, are there any administrative matters that you'd like to address?
Just one minor one, the fact that I'd like to go one by one through the witnesses to correct the numbering in the pre-file testimony.
Thank you. Do you have any administrative matters that you'd like to address at this point on your side?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Um,
And I don't believe there's no members from the public, so we can pass over public comment. And at this point, I'd like to swear in the witnesses. Attorney Cook, if you could introduce the witnesses from the company.
Thank you, Hearing Officer Fryer. I'd like to introduce Mr. Kenneth McDonough. He's Utility Relations Manager, Northeast Region, Network Permitting and Utilities for Crown Castle. His responsibility includes working with utilities, regulatory agencies, and municipalities in gaining the appropriate permits and approvals for small cell facilities, and is responsible in that vein for the small cell facility for which we're here today. I'd also like to introduce Mr. Michael Vandeveld, also of Crown Castle. He's a permitting specialist for Crown Castle's Northeast Small Cell and Fiber Solutions. He also is responsible for obtaining the necessary permitting and approvals from regulatory agencies, municipalities, and utilities for small cell facilities like the one that we're here for today. Also with us today is Mr. Tyler Gefeller. He's a radio frequency design engineer for Crown Castle Fiber LLC. He works on behalf of Crown Castle and works with other commercial mobile radio service providers to design and optimize wireless networks, and including for Crown Castle's small cell initiative in Fairfield County, as well as for the small cell facility that we're here for today. And finally, Mr. Pragna Shah, he's a senior radio frequency design engineer for Crown Castle. Similarly, he works with commercial mobile radio service providers on behalf of Crown Castle in designing and optimizing wireless networks, and in particular, for the small cell facility that's the subject of this Docket 24-1208 proceeding. And I offer them for swearing in at this time.
Okay, I will, at this time, I'll administer the oath to the company witnesses. If you can raise your right hands. Do you swear that the evidence you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under pains and penalties of perjury?
Yes.
Yes, I do.
Thank you very much. Attorney Cook, please have your witnesses adopt their pre-filed materials.
Very good. We have two exhibits that the witnesses will adopt. The first is the small cell application and its supporting components that was filed in this proceeding. We also have the second exhibit, which is the pre-filed testimony and its attachments that were also filed in this proceeding. And so we'll begin with Mr. Gefeller. Mr. Gefeller, did you prepare or did you assist in the preparation of the two exhibits that are part of this proceeding, 24-1208?
Yes, I did.
Do you have any corrections, modifications, or amendments to either of those two exhibits at this time?
Yes, the numbering on the pre-filed testimony was correct.
Very good. With the exception of that one correction, is the information contained in those two exhibits true and accurate to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, it's true and best and accurate to my knowledge.
And did you review attachment 3, the radio frequency engineer certification?
Yes, I reviewed that document.
And even though it's signed by Mr. Shah, you reviewed it?
Yes, I have reviewed it, yeah.
And do you adopt the testimony in these two exhibits as your sworn testimony in this proceeding in docket 24-1208?
Yes, I adopt it as my own testimony.
Very good. And Mr. McDonough, you prepared it. Were you involved in the preparation of the two exhibits submitted in this proceeding 24-1208?
Yes, I was.
Do you have any corrections or modifications to either of those two exhibits at this time?
Just the numbering issue that Mr. Fellow mentioned.
Very good. With the exception of that one correction, is the information contained in those two exhibits true and accurate to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, it is.
And do you adopt the testimony in those two exhibits as your sworn testimony in these proceedings, docket 24-1208?
Yes, I do.
Very good. Mr. Shah, did you prepare, were you involved in the preparation of the two exhibits offered in this proceeding, docket 24-1208?
Yes, I did.
Do you have any corrections at this time to either exhibit?
Not other than what Mr. Gafala has stated.
Very good. With the exception of that one correction, is the information contained in those two exhibits true and accurate to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
And do you adopt the testimony in those two exhibits
Yes,
as
I
your
do.
sworn testimony in this proceeding?
Yes, I do.
And finally, Mr. Van de Velde, did you prepare, were you involved in the preparation of the two exhibits offered in this proceeding 24-1208?
Yes, I was.
And do you have any corrections or modifications to either of those two exhibits at this time?
Just the previously mentioned correction about the pre-file numbering.
Very good. With the exception of that one correction, is the information in those two exhibits true and accurate to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, it is.
And do you adopt the testimony in these exhibits as your sworn testimony in these proceedings?
Yes, I do.
Very good. Mr. Hearing Officer Fryer, I offer these two exhibits as full exhibits.
Thank you, Attorney Cook. To begin with, if you have a brief opening statement that
Sure.
you'd like to recite for the company?
Sure, thank you. Hearing Officer Fryer, through its application and supporting attachments, as well as its pre-filed testimony and supporting attachments, Crown Castle has fulfilled the requirements set forth by the authority in its docket 0806 RE01 decision. Specifically, Crown Castle has submitted a construction plan that provides information regarding the specific location of the proposed facilities. Crown Castle also submitted a detailed description of the proposed facilities, including National Electric Safety Code and National Electric Code and all other applicable construction standards. Crown Castle also provided a detailed description of the purpose, the intended use, and the need for the proposed facilities. And finally, Crown Castle included specification plans and procedures to protect the public safety during construction, maintenance, and operation of the proposed facilities. Crown Castle also submitted a radio frequency maximum permissible exposure calculation pursuant to Federal Communications Commission Office of Technology, Office of Engineering and Technology, Bulletin 65, that demonstrates that the proposed facility is in compliance with FCC standards. Having fulfilled the requirements articulated by the authority, Crown Castle respectfully requests the authority grant approval of the proposed facilities.
Thank you, Attorney Cook. So now I have some questions for the company's panel. And when I ask the questions, whoever can answer, feel free to do so. They'll be generalized to everyone. So referring to the pre-filed testimony question and answer, I believe number 9, could you briefly explain how your RF design engineers identify a need for coverage?
Tyler Gefeller speaking. So we work with our telco partners to identify areas of need for coverage and capacity. In this particular location, we were given a point of interest on the location we're here today. And from there, we did a search of viable poles to attach to.
And is there, like, what's the public interest served by installing the facility, the small cell facility in this location? How is the public generally benefit from that?
To provide improved cell service for the residents area as well as emergency services.
And so the small cell would increase the service area for 911 calls, is that?
Correct, it would increase the coverage area.
And what is the company's procedure for evaluating poles for placement of small cell facilities?
So we identify an area of need with the telco partner, look and identify suitable poles in the area and work with our utility team members to identify which poles are suitable for attachment.
Do you know how many poles are located in this specific target area?
Kenneth McDonough. There were 13 poles in and around the area. The pole that was selected was the only one that was within the search ring that also we were allowed to actually attach to based on the utility standards for attachment.
And is that pole 7564?
7564, that's correct.
And so you touched on this just a little bit in your response, but can you discuss why those other poles weren't selected? Or why they couldn't be selected?
Any of the poles that were actually within the search ring where we would be able to install the antenna and reach the objective that we need for the customer. We're not allowed to get on those poles per UI standards because of junction poles and other appurtenances, primary appurtenances on their poles, such as transformers, switches, things of that nature. So pole 7564 was the only one in that search ring that we were allowed to get on per UI standards.
And you're bound by those UI standards. It's a prohibition for you to do
Yes,
anything. They're
yes.
automatically excluded?
Automatically excluded. That's correct.
So in the pre-filed testimony, it mentions that municipalities or municipal authorities require company contractors to hire local police officers for traffic safety purposes. Is Bridgeport one of those municipalities that requires you to hire local police officers?
Yes, we're required to contact the overtime police department and hire a police officer to conduct traffic when we're working in the public right of way.
And assuming in this case, that will be done.
Correct.
And can you explain how the company conducted the analysis for the RF emissions?
So we created an EME report for the particular site using the proposed radio attachments and antenna gains and any losses associated with it, and prepared an EME emissions report as well as Excel sheets for the PURA.
Just want to state by law, we are required to do it with a third party and do a verification. So by law, it is required for us to do it with a third party.
So who, the third party verifies? Is it?
So third party has to create it and we have to verify it. It's given based on our input, but that's by FCC rule that we basically have to do EME report by third party, not us or the entity, for safety for everyone.
And does the report, is that, does that include certain calculations for the RF emissions, or what does that entail?
Yes, it's OET 65, but it has to be done by third party by law.
Do you actually do the calculations yourself, or just verify what the third party calculates?
We certainly are, we do it our own, but we also have to verify what they do it. So it's a combination of both.
Can you please explain, with a properly operating and fully functional small cell facility, in which direction or directions do the RF emissions radiate?
So the RF directions in this particular site has an array of 3 antennas to be installed. And they are going to be transmitting from different azimuths at the point out in 3 cones to almost simulate a 360 coverage, but not similar to an Omni antenna.
Okay. And I know from reviewing the pre-filed testimony, the company provided a worst-case assessment of RF emissions. And which direction are accounted for in those worst-case scenarios?
The worst case scenario directions is directed all directions, including ground, to a point of 2 meters above the bottom of the ground of the pole.
So from wherever it is attached to the pole directly down?
Yep.
So as if someone was standing right
Below it.
below
Correct.
it?
That's correct, yes.
And the maximum permissible exposure that was promulgated by the FCC?
This one was around 13%.
But the whole, like that whole scale,
Yeah.
that's an FCC promulgated rule that you follow?
Correct, yes. We follow that rule, yes.
And I know you just stated this, but I didn't hear it. What was the, in this case, what was the specific?
It was around 13%.
Okay, and I'm assuming the maximum permissible exposure is 100%?
Is 100% for general public, yes.
And I just want to add one more thing. It's substantially below 100%, the current, for this portion, it's 13%, which is substantially below 100%.
Thank you. With that, I don't believe I have any more questions. And Attorney Cook, I don't know if you want to take some time for a redirect or if you,
I don't have any redirect at this time based off of that cross. Thank you, Hearing Officer Fryer.
okay, thank you. We're going to turn over to Ms. Ortiz. Do you need any time? Do you want to take a break or are you all set to go forward? Okay. So what I'm going to do first, I'm just going to swear you in, have you take the oath, and we'll do that now. So do you swear that the evidence you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under pains and penalties of perjury? Thank you. So if you would like to provide an opening statement at this point, feel free.
Yes. We initially received the notification about the proposed installation of the small cell back in July of 2024. We tried to make calls and onto the state to see what we could, what is our right. And I believe it was the beginning or the mid of November of 2024. I was going into work late that morning, and the utility truck came in to my home, docket number 241208, with a monopole, because the pole that's there, it will be extended 6 feet, and they came to install back in November of 2024, a monopole black. I don't know if it was wood or metal. And I tried to make phone calls. I spoke with the person that came with the pole, and I believe there was an officer there as well. And I said, have you guys gone through the proper procedure? Because this was prior to Crown Castle going to Pura. And I told them that I would, I am going to insist that that pole does not get erected because I'm still working with Pura through this whole process. And ultimately, they left and did not install the pole. With that said, it's very concerning to me because the communication that we have and the activity that have taken place, the necessary steps were not taken. So, and I will mention also that during the mediation, as I said before, there was a promise that the radio frequency electromagnetic fields would be done for both properties. However, they disclose 71 Sunshine property, but not the 24-1208, my residence. To this date, I do not have that outcome like they did for Sunshine Circle. So I would just like to ask if that could be provided for me today from Crown Castle. You know, Crown Castle did not summarize the outcome of the FFC allowable range for my residence, and I'm requesting that. I just want to reiterate. We checked with our neighbors on Raleigh Road and Maybrook, and there is not an issue with getting good reception for those whose cell phone carrier is Verizon. We have Verizon and have no problem getting service. Further, one of our neighbors we spoke to informed us that she received a notice over 2 years ago from Crown Castle about placing a small cell antenna on that said pole, but have not heard any, I'm sorry, but have not received any further communication since. People are not really aware of the small cell antenna, the radiation factor, if you live there 24/7. And my house is a colonial, and I think initially when Crown Castle did their study to put that in that location, they went by the Cape out because it's all Capes. My home on that street is the only colonial. And I have the picture of my home here, where my bedroom is right there within close proximity to the small cell antenna that's going to be placed. I want to also mention that over the past few years, there is an erosion of dirt creating a ditch when it rains coming from up the street on Raleigh Road and lodges in front of our house. We are concerned that when they drill to place this very tall monopole, it will increase the erosion that will adversely affect 88 and 86 Raleigh Road, where both houses are built on a water table. I don't know if a study was done for a water table, but my property and 86 is on a water table. And I just wanted to ask if you guys had done a water study history of the property in that location, because this pole is so significantly high that I know you will have to drill down further to accommodate the stability of the pole. And I want to also say that based on research that we did, there are 2 unregistered small cell antennas on a campus of a university in the area. That's owned by Crown. This small cell antenna is owned by Crown Castle.
Check to that state. Offered as the.
Your objection is sustained. I have a question that I wanted to ask Ms. Ortiz. Did you so is it your testimony that you didn't receive any report or any information with respect to the RF emissions?
We did, but it was, the table was so complicated when we try to print it to see if we can get an understanding, because we are late, it's in lame, it's not in something that I could understand. I'm not an expert. We could not get but they provided for 71 Sunshine, the 15.35 out of 100, that's allowed by the FCC, but they did not provide that for Raleigh Road.
Is that the only thing that was deficient in 1208? That
12, yes.
But was there anything, so in both, I'm going to call them packets that you received with 07 and 08, the only thing that 08 was missing, according to your testimony, is I guess the synopsis of, or the final RF figure.
Yes, yes.
I'm sorry, I interjected there, but did you have any further testimony or any questions that you wanted to ask on the 08 matter?
No.
And Attorney Cook, do you have any follow-up questions that you wanted to ask?
Yes, thank you, Hearing Officer Fryer. Mrs. Ortiz, you did receive, or are you aware of the RF calculation that was submitted as attachment 3B1 of the 24/12/08 application, that Excel sheet?
It was a table, yes, and with all the information there, being not an expert, I did not understand what it said. However, you broke out for 71 Sunshine exactly what the allowable percentage is by the FCC, sorry, but not for Raleigh Road.
And are you referring to the additional calculation that was discussed at the meeting?
During mediation, that, because, because it wasn't done for Raleigh Road, wasn't done for both properly, basically. But we requested that it be done because that was a concern because of health issues with constant 24/7 radiation. And as I said before, my residence, the bedroom is right there, close proximity, the pictures are right here.
That's all I have for recross. Hearing Officer Fryer, the company, if we inadvertently did not send the nearest structure additional RF calculation to Mrs. Ortiz, we'd be happy to do so. We apologize if we didn't. I'm pretty confident we did, but if we did not, more than happy to provide that to Mrs. Ortiz.
So are you saying that the company, so you don't know if that was ever turned over at mediation, or is it, you don't know if it was turned over at the initial notice?
So we're actually talking about two different RF calculations. The initial calculation for base of pole plus the 2 meters above ground at the base of the pole, that was absolutely included in our initial application. At mediation, we offered to provide an additional RF calculation called the nearest structure RF calculation. And I believe that's what Mrs. Ortiz is referring to.
And if I may add, during the remediation, when we requested this study to be done, we were told it would be done after the installation of the pole, and we objected to that.
Right.
No, we needed to be done before, because once that pole is up there, there's nothing that we can do.
So,
But I didn't get it for Raleigh Road. We did not receive it.
so the supplement, for
Yeah.
lack of a better term, the supplemental calculation, is that, do you normally provide that? Or is that something you do so the APO has a better understanding of how you've developed those numbers or how you came out with the calculation?
Yeah, we don't normally provide it, especially because, as the small cell application sets forth, unless the distance between the nearest structure and the utility pole is less than the distance between the antenna center line and 6.56 feet above ground at the base of the pole, that additional RF calculation is not necessary. But at mediation, we had offered that to try to address Mrs. Ortiz's concerns. And we'd be happy to provide that if we haven't already.
So what I'm understanding is that at a certain point, at a certain distance, if that distance is less than what's stated, you do an additional calculation.
That's right. That's right. Yep. As the small cell application sets forth, if that's the circumstance, then we need to provide two calculations, correct? But it wasn't the case in this matter.
Okay, thank you very much.
It is a short distance.
I have one more, I actually have an additional question with respect to the pole. Is the small cell equipment going to be attached? It's an existing pole? Or are you putting a new one in, or I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, so in this particular case, the existing wood pole, United Illuminating's wood pole, it doesn't allow for us to be able to meet vertical clearances by adding our equipment to the existing pole. So United Illuminating is going to replace the pole with the next taller size pole. They come in 5-foot increments. And that will provide enough vertical clearance for all attachers to be on the pole and meet clearances per the NESC. So that was the pole that they were going to replace, where Mrs. Ortiz told them not to.
And the RF emissions calculations that were done that takes into account the new pole?
It takes into account the final mounting height of the pole, which does take into account the new pole, yes. And that process happens in advance normally. We pay the utility for what we call make-ready work to get the pole prepared for us to be able to attach. And we usually do that at risk. So if the pole gets replaced and everything gets transferred to the new pole, and for some reason we can't get on that pole, if Pura were to deny our application or something like that, we're out the cost of putting that new pole up, right? So it's not a prerequisite. Right.
Do you know in this instance when that pole will be replaced?
Well, they were going to replace it already, which is what Mrs. Ortiz was talking about previously, and she stopped them from doing it. So United Illuminating is sitting on standby, waiting for this hearing, waiting for everything to be cleared up before they're going to go back out there again.
So they want this small cell application approved before they transfer out the pole.
Yes, because they've gone out there already. They don't want to waste truck rolls. So they put their work on hold in this particular case.
Understood.
Yes.
Ms. Ortiz, did you have anything to add?
Yes. Just wanted to, were you aware that the UI company was coming out to put that taller pole by 5 feet, as you say, I call it the monopole, at that location back in November? Were you aware of that before you put it, prior to you putting your application to Pura?
When did we put the application to Pura in? Do you remember?
I'm sorry, the witnesses will have to answer. I can't testify to that, Mr. McDonough.
So normally we put all of our applications in at the same time. So if United Illuminating came out there to replace that particular pole prior to us paying for our make-ready work, then that pole replacement had nothing to do with our antenna. If it did have something to do with our antenna, they're not going to go out and replace it until we've paid for it. So there is a chance that there may be some work happening out there on their own network or for another attacher, but
Mm-mm.
Okay. That concludes the questions that I have. Attorney Cook, I don't know if you've had any questions that you wanted to redirect on, follow up on?
I do not. Thank you, Hearing Officer Fryer.
So with that, I think you do,
Yes, we did. you did confirm today that you would provide me with the, the radio frequency electromagnetic field as it relates to docket 241208? Because I don't have it. When, could you
Yes, Mrs.
estimate the
Ortiz.
time that you would provide that with to me?
Attorney Quick, I think we can make that a late file exhibit. You want,
Um, provided that we wouldn't have to do a late filed hearing, though, I'm concerned about, you know, an kind of an offer for mediation, delaying the proceedings. We're, you know, I can, if, I'm 99% certain that it was provided right after mediation. We didn't hear from Mrs. Ortiz that it wasn't. And we're happy to resend it, provide a copy as quickly as possible, like this afternoon.
do you know how it was provided?
Uh,
Or how would it have been provided since you're 99.9% sure?
Yes, I actually sent it to Miss Adams from EOE to send it to Mrs. Ortiz.
Is that something you can confirm?
Yeah, if you'd allow me a couple minutes to check my emails, I'd be happy to.
Yeah, why don't we take like a 5-minute break and see if you can confirm that?
Sure.
And then we'll go from there.
Very good.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. and company witnesses as well. On the agenda, we usually have a space for next steps. I don't know if there's any dates included in this docket yet on the agenda. And going forward, a schedule will be adopted at some point. And so look forward to those for next steps that will be sent out at some point. Again, I just wanted to thank you all, and we're adjourned.
Thank you, Hearing Officer Fryer.